For those who are trying to build my version of the Clough42 ELS that has support for the Nextion touchscreen, I'm making this video to show how to check out the code, import it into Code Composer, and compile it. I'm going to start by deleting my my copy of the code that's installed, and so just to get my system back to initial state. So I select the two projects and delete them. That removes them from Code Composer. The files are still on the file system, so just go into the directory and delete that folder. I'm using the default workspace directory, so C:\users Kent workspace v10. Before building the EOS, you're going to need Code Composer 10 and C2000ware installed. Next, we'll copy the code from the repository into local workspace directory. A default branch tracks Clough42's repository, and then there's a CSS 10 version, Code Composer 10 version, so I've made the changes necessary to get the original EOS code to work with Code Composer 10 and the latest C2000ware. There's a Nextion and 7-segment branch. There's a Nextion peer branch, and this is the branch that also has the arbitrary pitch and feed inputs, and then a development branch based on the Nextion peer branch. I don't know if I have pictures. Yeah, so this is what the touchscreen looks like if you use the 7-segment display with it, and then if you use the peer Nextion branch, this is what it looks like, where you're able to track the speed of the spindle, the rotary position of the spindle in degrees, able to type in a feed and pitch, both imperial and metric units, and then change the mode by clicking this icon. If an alarm appears, there's a graphic that shows up here. This button is unused, and this stops the EOS. It has a similar behavior as the limit switch. If you do install the limit switch, when the limit switch is pressed, it's just like stop was pressed on the touchscreen. The stop will change to a go when it is stopped. Alright, so drop this down, copy the URL, and then right click in the workspace, and I'm using tortoise get, and the URL gets populated automatically. So clone that into the workspace. I need to go into that directory, again right click, and go to checkout and switch to the Nextion peer branch. Now we'll start Code Composer. I'm going to use the default workspace. Alright. We have to import that code, so I go import CSS projects. And we'll browse to the directory that contains the project. You can either use the workspace directory or go into the electronic lead screw directory. And select all. While there's two projects here, the only one I worked with was the ELS project. I didn't do any updates of the test fixture. I tested all my changes directly on the hardware. Now we can right click on the project and go to build project. You can close a few of these unused windows, and the project is built. There's two modes that it can be built in. debug, and a release. And the difference is a debug binary will load into the RAM of the Launchpad board, that is into the volatile memory. It won't survive a reset, so if something goes wrong, just cycle power and you're back to the previous installed version. And there's also a release version. The released version turns on the optimizer, the compiler. It takes a little bit longer to load to the Launchpad board, but most importantly, when it is loaded, the binary loads into the flash memory of the Launchpad. And that means that the program is installed into non-volatile memory and survives a power cycle. So that's where the program should be installed when doing the final installation onto your lathe. And just to show that that works fine, change the project, and it's building. And if you drop the project open, there should be a release folder that contains the binary right here. I believe that's it. Yep. If you would want to share the binary with someone else, if you search for loading binary to Launchpad board without Code Composer, I'm sure you'll quickly find it. If you wanted to make changes to the interface, it's pretty easy to do. Just keep the button names the same. If the button names change, then the ELS code will also have to change to reflect that. When the buttons are pressed, what's happening in the Nextion touchscreen is it's switching between an active version of the image and I guess maybe this is the active version. So when you press one of these buttons, this is the image that's being used to update the screen and just the area that's been pressed. And otherwise, this is the version of the image that's used to update the screen. All right. If you run into any trouble or have any questions, put them in the comments, email me. I'm glad to help. I don't have a copy of the hardware any longer. I did the work for a friend and sent the hardware to him. Otherwise, yeah, good luck and let me know how it goes. I'd love to hear if you have successfully or not compiled the code and loaded it to your own touchscreen and Launchpad board.